It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
Hi, everyone, and welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Matthew Moreno. Excuse me. Joining me tonight is Anthony. I'm pinch hitting tonight, but Anthony, another Sunday night show for you. And I don't know about you, but it dawned on me as we were watching that intro play. We might need to edit it to add Ohtani pitching now. It's already outdated.
Yeah. I think we need some Ohtani in the postseason before we add it, though.
All right. Yeah, maybe we'll wait for that. But for Ohtani either starting a Game 7 or closing a Game 7,
Hey.
You never know, right? There's several months for that to play out.
Yeah, for sure.
We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I know Game 7 of the NBA Finals is happening right now, but it looks like we're still getting a good crowd to hop in, and I'm seeing a lot of our regulars, so thank you for that. If you are new and you are on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to our channel, ring the notification bell. We're trying to get to 100,000. I know you've heard Jeff talking about it. You've heard me talking about it. We're making some progress. What I realized is as frustrating as it was to watch all the madness and nonsense with the Padres, they were good for business this past week because we gained a healthy number of subscribers. Ivan is saying he just did it. So thank you for that, Ivan. If you're not with us on YouTube, once we're done here, definitely take some time to come check out our channel. We put up post-game interviews, Dave Roberts pre-game interviews, obviously these live shows that we do with our staff. We try and schedule interviews with different guests, things of that nature. Before we get into it, and on YouTube, you can also do super chats, which help kind of fund the channel and help grow it and promote it and all that good stuff. We have our first one from Carlos. It says, will the Dodgers make a trade before the deadline? I mean, I think the easy answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think excuse me, I don't know what's going on. I don't think anybody's going to say no to this. I think the question is what type of trade?
Yeah, I think that's the question right now. I think part of this is that there's still a lot of teams that haven't decided if they're going to buy or sell. And so anything going on right now is just incredibly surface level and preliminary if anyone is making calls or if any discussions are being had. One interesting team would be the Braves, because it feels like they may be falling out of this thing and they might have some pieces that are enticing to some clubs. I don't know about the Dodgers necessarily, but if we're thinking about like what kind of move they make, considering Ohtani's just back, we think Blake Snell will be back. We think Tyler Glasnow will be back, which we'll talk about. I don't think they're heavy on the starting pitching market. I think they could go and look at bullpen help though. That would be my main guess, and then maybe like a bench bat or something like that. But outside of that, like I don't really see a blockbuster happening, because I think if that were to come, it would come on the pitching side. And I think what they did in the past two winters, was so that they don't have to overspend at the deadline. We keep talking about that, but that's straight from the horse's mouth and Andrew Friedman. So
Yep.
I think probably they're going to look to improve on the margins and potentially back into the bullpen, even though they got Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. And, but you don't have Gratterall back yet. Evan Phillips is out for the season. Who knows what Kopech is at this point? So I think that's where they would look. There's going to be a starting pitching market. I just don't know. I don't know if the Dodgers dive into it too deeply.
Yeah. And to poke a little bit of fun at Carl's question here, I could say the Dodgers have already made a trade before the trade deadline. The name is escaping me right now, but they completed one with the Boston Red Sox for a relief pitcher who had been DFA'd when the Red Sox and Giants did their Rafael Devers trade. But yeah, in all seriousness, I think, yes, we will see some activity. And you mentioned it. It is ironic because Andrew Friedman has year in and year out said he hates the trade deadline because prices are 5 times what they should be. And honestly, if you look at what the Dodgers did on the pitching side during the offseason, like they should, and I'm saying they shouldn't be in this position just because it's so crazy. It's obviously the injuries. I mean, whether you want to say they're out of their control or not, obviously, like maybe their training regimen has something to do with it, but injuries happen everywhere. Like it's crazy and unfortunate. Like we are sitting here saying like, yeah, the Dodgers probably will trade for a pitcher because they didn't just sign Tanner Scott during the offseason. They also got Kirby Yates. They also brought, no, Blake Trinan had been re-signed already, I think, right?
But Kopech was the previous deadline, right?
That's right. Yeah, Kopech was still under team control. Like, it's like, for a lack of a better word, and I apologize, but crazy that we're sitting here talking about that. And same thing with starting pitching. Like, they got Blake Snell, Clayton Kershaw came back, and I know that you can debate what Kershaw's value, his capability, and all that is going to become October, fine, but he is there. Roki Sasaki, even, you know, if you had tempered expectations, like we tried to, you know, sort of raise bring up on this channel, like I still would have thought, okay, he's going to be around for the regular season to help get them at least to the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of interesting and to see, you know, it's what 3 years now, 3 years where I think injuries have like really ravaged the pitching staff.
Yeah, it's been brutal, and it's forced them to go out and really shop on that market for starting pitching. And the hope was that these guys would make it into the deadline somewhat healthy. Yeah. And we all know how that's gone so far. So, you know, I think as long as there's positive progression for some of those other guys, you know, they'll probably just wait for those reinforcements to come. And like I said, look to the bullpen, maybe look to improve on the margins. But yeah, I don't, for the moment, I don't see a blockbuster deal in their future. And I don't really see a massive need for it. Like, I think anything like that would be a luxury at this point. And I don't know that Andrew Friedman wants to overpay for a luxury kind of player.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we have a few more super chats. I'm going to get to them in a second. Just want to give you guys kind of a quick preview of what we're going to be discussing. Obviously, today's game, Dodgers ended their homestand with a win over the Nationals. I know everybody was panicking for the first 5 innings of the Nationals. Soroka had not a no-hitter through the 5th. I forgot at what point it was broken up, but he was shutting down the Dodgers. They were able to finally put it together, get another comeback win, which Anthony, they lead the majors in with, I think, 29 or 30 of them now.
You can't have a comeback win if you don't get down first.
That's right. So we're going to discuss that. Obviously, we're going to touch on Shohei Ohtani's second start. It was just 1 inning again, and I see, you know, that is what some of these super chats are asking about in terms of remaining in the leadoff spot when he is pitching. We'll discuss Tyler Glasnow beginning his rehab assignment. Touch on Hesseong Kim a little bit and some comments Dave Roberts made earlier in the week, and you know how Michael Conforto sort of ties into all that. And then, of course, we're going to leave time at the end for some questions. And as we're doing that, Anthony and I will share some thoughts on the Mike Schilt, Dave Roberts. Is it a feud? Is it like they have some serious beef at this point? I mean, there's something going on there.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We'll wait to get into that for me to share my thoughts. Let me preview by saying Mike Schilt's ridiculous.
There we go. All right, let's get to these super chats. LM213 says, with how bad Mookie is, do they add an impact bat? So I think this is piggybacking off a Dodgers trade question at the deadline. You and I both agree. I mean, I think I could see them adding an outfielder who I guess, quote unquote, potentially like is an impact bat, but I still don't know, in the same vein that you were kind of explaining about starting pitching. I don't know if Andrew Friedman like looks to make that huge splash, even with Conforto struggling, because honestly, I think the trade deadline addition, if you will just be more Hesseong Kim in the lineup.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think my question would be, at what position do they add that player? I think everyone's clamoring for Michael Conforto to be benched, which fair. But I think that the solution for that is in-house, which is what you say. You end up playing Kim more, and Kim and Edmund sort of rotate, you know, between center field and second base, and then Pages in one corner and Teoscar in the other, which sort of solves that issue if that's what you're thinking of. Again, I don't know who will be necessarily out there, like Marcelo Zuna, but we already have a DH, you know, like, so I think it's a question too of like which teams are going to be selling and which bat is going to be worth going after. And for the first part of this super chat with how bad Mookie is, he's bad right now. He's in a slump right now. Overall, he's been fine. He's been like an all-star level caliber shortstop. He's not been MVP Mookie. And so I think we're holding up Mookie to the MVP standard, which fair, because he was that up until he hurt his hand last year. And so I think at least for now, I think in the near future, we have to sort of adjust our expectations of what he's going to be until he starts to show signs that he might be, making that shift. But like he hasn't been so bad that they need him out of the lineup. I saw somewhere that he should be hitting seventh. He shouldn't be hitting seventh. Aside from this particular slump that he's currently in, which also Shohei and also Freddie, like, are we dropping Freddie too? Like, you know what I mean? Like anybody who's slumping, is it automatically you're going to start reshuffling the order? And that's just not how baseball works. And especially for the veteran guys. So with that said, I think that the question would be, if they do go out and get like a impact bat, what position does that player play?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to touch on. I think one thing sort of working in the Dodgers' favor is a proverbial quote unquote impact bat could come at any outfield position. And I think the reason for that is if there's a center fielder, and to your point, like it's a little early right now to really know. Obviously, if we say center field, at least Robert Jr. is the biggest name, but I mean, is that the impact bat that we're sort of thinking of and discussing? Like, not necessarily, at least in terms of production. Potential sure has been there, but you need to produce. Like, it's kind of the Tyler Glasnow discussion, right? Like the potential is there, but if you're not producing, then what good is it? The Dodgers, I think, could theoretically trade for any three outfield positions, because if you need to, I think Dave Roberts has said like they're not necessarily looking to do it, but if it comes down to it and there's a superstar right fielder who becomes available, you go to Teoscar Hernandez and say, look, like we need you to finish the second half in left field. Like, you played it last year. We know right field is your preference, but I think that that's a discussion you can have. If a big time center fielder becomes available, they've already put Andy Pages in left field. And if it's a left fielder that you end up, falling into your lap, well, everybody's trying to run Michael Conforto out of town anyway. So like that, you're not losing any sleep over that. So I do think that kind of affords them some valuable flexibility. But to your point, like I am skeptical that they go and make a huge splash, because we've seen it in years past where they say, we have XYZ coming back from the injured list, like they're going to be our big addition. And I see, Hawaiian Kira, her super chat is saying impact bat isn't Muncy back. Like, Max Muncy getting on track. Like, I could see that as the Dodgers sort of internally justifying, hey, this is our big lineup change. To your point, and then the super chat we just had up about Mookie, if he starts to trend up a little bit more closer to his career averages, I know that there's a raging debate even within our staff as to what Mookie Betts is capable of these days and what type of player he's going to be. But if he starts hitting better, like, that changes the complexion of your lineup. And I think the lineup questions, to your point, like everybody's sort of scuffling right now. If Freddie Freeman isn't in his slump, like, are we really having a lineup talk right now? Like, probably not. So, I mean, yes, to your point, I don't know. Like, there, as much as I say, like, there is flexibility for the Dodgers to slide in and out, slot in an outfielder, I don't know if they necessarily quote unquote need one. And we just said it earlier. A lot of people are clamoring for Hesseong Kim to play more often. And so if you do that and you put kind of another player ahead of him, then like that's going to cut into his time as well.
Yeah. The thing too is like, we are always victims of the moment. Go back 2 months and a lot of this chat wanted Andy Pages gone.
Yeah.
A lot of this chat wanted Max Muncy gone. Mm-hmm. Mookie Betts is not good right now, but it's Mookie Betts. He can absolutely turn this around. You know what I mean? Like, so I just think we have a little bit of patience. We're still more than a month out from the trade deadline. This lineup can look very different in a month, very different. And we may be saying, hey, something else is our place of need now. You know what I mean? So I think we sort of fall prey to like, well, for the last week, this guy's been terrible, so we need to replace him. And like, okay, but it's baseball. I know all of you watch baseball every year, and we watch this happen every year, and we have these same conversations every year. Things can change. Look at Paez. He's the hottest hitter in maybe baseball right now over the last month. A lot of people wanted him out, in April and even in May. So let's give it a little more time. We still have plenty of time before any kind of trade deadline is here. So let's see what this team looks like in about 4 weeks.
All right, let's get to a few more of these super chats before we really dive into kind of the plan we have tonight. Fritz says, hey, guys, he used a bat emoji, but it says batting order adjustments when Shohei pitches. It is possible. Fritz, we're going to get into this kind of as our broader Shohei discussion, so save that. Keep that in mind. We'll kind of revisit this. And same thing, Carlos, thank you for your second super chat tonight. Do you think Show should bat first when he pitches? So we'll tie that into kind of our Ohtani discussion that we're going to get into once we finish these couple next super chats. Bacon Tree says MV3 needs to hit better in the coming weeks. Muncy's bat being back is so needed. Enrique to another bullpen arm. Kim never gets steady runway to play. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this Hesseong Kim we're going to discuss as well. Anthony, you just mentioned the first three in the Dodgers lineup haven't consistently been pulling their weight. And I know that there's some discussion for Ohtani's in the case of Ohtani, if that has to do with pitching. Dave Roberts doesn't necessarily believe so. He says, that they measure and look at a lot of the underlying metrics with him, including bat speed and things of that nature. Dave Roberts thinks that it's more of just that Ohtani's kind of chasing, which we saw him go through this last year, where he goes through these stretches where he expands the strike zone and he becomes susceptible to breaking balls in the dirt and stuff like that.
He's done it this year before this too. Like, I think we need to have an understanding of Ohtani. We've seen enough of him that he can be streaky. And typically when he's bad, it's for that reason, is that he's chasing and he's lost a little bit of that plate discipline. He'll be fine. He got through it last year. He's gotten through it this year when it's happened. He'll get through it again.
Yeah. All right. Couple more super chats. Thank you guys again for these. These really help kind of sustain and grow our channel. 300 GJW says Ohtani would never bat leadoff if I had any say.
He took off when he got into the leadoff spot last season. I mean, that's essentially when he won the MVP and that's when the 50-50 run turned on. And he's been good in that spot this year. So I'm all for getting your best bat at the top of the order in the first or second slot. If they moved, I was fine when Mookie was leading off and he was hitting second. And that part of the order, those first three guys to me don't matter. But I will say this: I want Ohtani up as many times as humanly possible.
Yeah, and I think you saw why today. As bad as he looked in his first two at bats, then he comes up again with the bases loaded and he ropes one down the line. And then he comes up later in the game and he hits a 2-run homer.
Yeah.
It's still Shohei Ohtani. He can look terrible for not just one at bat, but two. And then that third one is the difference. Maybe he's 0 for 3 and then he gets a big hit in that fourth one. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'd have to go back. I don't remember. I know the lineup discussion, the lineup order was a big discussion when the Dodgers signed him. I'd have to go back and look at where I landed when we were doing a video on that before the Dodgers. It was during the offseason, obviously, so it was before the Dodgers had played a game with him. But I agree, considering, as you pointed out, considering the role Ohtani got on when he was moved into leadoff spot because Mookie's fractured hand, like there was no going back from it at that point. And I know we had some of the super chats asking about when he pitches. Potentially there will be a change there, and we'll get to that here in a few minutes. 20 says, I've never seen Freddie so visibly out of whack. Dude is acting like he's never swung a bat before. Are the injuries finally catching up? I don't know if they're necessarily catching up. I think for me, if anything, it's making it a little bit harder for him to find his rhythm again because he also isn't healthy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He's dealing with a couple of things. I think when sometimes a player can be as sort of mechanical is not the right word, but like rhythm focused and rhythm dependent as he can be, getting out of that a little bit can really throw him out of whack. He mentioned the stretch, like he feels like he knows when it happened. It happened during an off day, and then he came back and did not feel the same because he was great before that. He was like MVP candidate Freddie Freeman before that. So I think he's going to get back there. He's going to find it again. He tends to have a way to, like, the light bulb goes off for him for, whatever he's watching film, or, he's taking extra BP and something clicks for him. He did it last year too. He's done it before with the Dodgers. I think he will eventually be fined, or I should say he'll eventually find it. He's going to be dealing with, like, the ankle thing for the whole season. And he was really good for a stretch, even with that. The power stroke is a little concerning. I will say that, but I think for him, if he can get the bat right and get the bat back into the zone for longer, and what's sort of one of his trademarks, then I think you probably see that power start to return.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know you basically summed it up. I mean, I'm not concerned about Freddie. I think he'll get into another rhythm and go on a tear that we saw, as you mentioned, kind of that he was in the midst of before the off day. So, all right, those were the super chats we have so far for tonight. Thank you again, everybody, for those. As a reminder, if you are on YouTube and you do want us to answer a specific question or a topic, super chat is definitely the way to go. If it's not something that's kind of in our planned content, we'll stop what we're doing as quickly as we can and sort of transition and pivot to answer your question. But for the time being, Anthony, let's get into kind of the stuff we had planned for tonight. And obviously, as I mentioned in the opening, Shohei Ohtani, as everybody knows, pitched today, Sunday afternoon start against the Nationals. The Dodgers, they faced a little bit of an interesting decision. I felt they could have started him Sunday on what ended up being, I think, 5 days rest, or they could have pushed him into Coors Field for some extra rest after his first start this year. Decided on Sunday. I think the Nationals, Dodger Stadium, even though it was a 110 start, a little bit more of a softer landing spot than having to go out to the launching pad that's Coors Field for your second start of the season.
Also, a little tougher to get a barometer on your stuff when you pitch there too.
Good point. Yeah,
aside from just it being a launching pad.
Yeah, great point. But in terms of Ohtani's start today, just one inning again, 18 pitches. Would have probably retired the side in order, but there's the Mookie Betts error on the pop-up that he lost in the sun. Probably the biggest news, Ohtani ended up with 2 strikeouts. It's his first and then his second as a Dodger pitcher, and obviously his first and second since August 2023. Anthony, what just kind of general thoughts on Ohtani's performance on the mound today?
I thought he looked good. First pitch strikes to all 4 batters he faced. That sweeper was moving a lot. I thought he looked great. Obviously, a little less amped up. You saw the velocity was down a little bit from that first start, and it's kind of what everyone figured, was that he was just pretty juiced up for that first start, San Diego, and first time back on the mound. So, I thought the stuff was good. I was a little surprised it was only 1 inning. Mm-hmm. In all honesty, we have been told that, I think before the game, or like maybe it was yesterday or before the game today, like I think the quote was essentially he won't pitch more than 2 innings, which I think led the world to believe that he was going to pitch 2 innings. And then we also heard after the first start, the way the buildup was going to go was each start he would add an inning. Obviously, we were lied to about that.
I will say that Dave, in between the 2 starts, Dave sort of did kind of pull back a little bit by saying, like, we don't have to do that. But yes, going into Ohtani's first start and immediately after it, like, the suggestion and impression was, hey, we're going to take this slowly and basically 1 inning each time, or at least get into, in this case, get into a second inning today, and then the next time get into a third inning, and so forth, so on and so forth.
Yeah. And we'll talk in a minute about the longer term outlook with this, but I thought he looked good. I thought he looked good again. The stuff is clearly there. He's clearly ready to be able to get major league hitters out. It's just now a buildup for him.
Yeah, I think it's buildup, and still, like, he did have a wild pitch today. He was squeezed a little bit in his last. Like, there've been little things where it's here and there. I do think we are getting small sample sizes, so as he gets into maybe a 2-inning start, 3 innings, 4 innings, like, you might see like some rust, whether it's because fatigue of having to like continue carrying your stuff through it. Like, because the fact, I mean, he hasn't pitched in 2023, right? Like, as much as he did, and even like the sim games that he did was only, I think it ended up being 3 of them, this is basically his rehab assignment. And
Yeah.
I mean, like, as I'm saying all of this, I also need to acknowledge that it is Shohei Ohtani, and he has proven to do kind of the impossible, really. So would I be fully shocked if Ohtani doesn't show any signs of rust as he continues to build up? No, but I think that there is that potential. And you mentioned it, let's get into kind of what the Dodgers have sort of mapped out for him. You brought up, yes, Dave Roberts did sort of, and I think even Brandon Gomes might have suggested like the plan at least was going to be, we're going to take this slow, kind of one inning at a time, let him build up. Dave Roberts then, as I mentioned, sort of backtrack on that. We obviously saw that today, and I agree with you. Like, even Dave Roberts was asked after the start today, hey, if Ohtani had retired the side in order and like not faced the fourth batter, would you then have let him go out for a second inning? Like, was it just a matter of what that first inning ended up being? And he said no. Like, the plan pretty much all along was going to be one inning for him today. Which, look, the Dodgers want to handle this how they want to. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm more in tune with or have more like I don't have the information that they have, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like I do, but it does strike me as odd that it's kind of back-to-back starts, sort of one inning each time, stuff like that. Now, the other part to all this is the Dodgers don't appear to be in any. I mean, if it wasn't clear before, Dave Roberts made it perfectly clear that they're not in any sort of rush to get Ohtani built up to being a quote-unquote normal starter in the sense of providing 6 or 7 innings, because he said before the game that Ohtani getting to 6 innings, getting to 90 pitches, that's not something the Dodgers are really even planning on or think that not that it's possible, but that they are working towards.
Yeah. What he said was, so to say 6 innings and 90 pitches, I don't even know if we'll get to that point. Really weird. I'll get to that. But I'll start by saying, if that's the plan with him, then fine. Like, not a problem, right? I think fans would be fine with that. But stop telling us that, like, it might be different. Even as early as, like, hours before the game that he's actually pitching in. Stop telling us, like, well, he'll go no more than 2 innings. Because this would have been like, if you're going to say, and no 2 innings are built alike, right?
Right.
But for example, if they would have said in the San Diego start, we're hoping for him to get to 2 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Just use that as a hypothetical. And then he has that inning that he had against the Padres. Super stressful, a lot of pitches. And they went, you know what? Change of plans. We looked at that inning. He's done. Totally understandable. Now, if you wanted to extend him, today is the perfect kind of day to do it. Stress-free inning, no hard contact, 2 strikeouts, pretty efficient, throwing strikes. I think he threw 18 pitches. Is that right? And like 12 of them were strikes.
Yes.
Perfect opportunity against a not super great lineup. Roll him out there for a second inning. But they don't do that. Okay, fine. First of all, now stop telling us you might do it if you knew the entire time. I just don't understand that. I really don't.
They're trying to gain a competitive advantage. Let the Nationals think that Ohtani's going 2 big innings instead of 1.
Yeah, the Nationals, I'm sure, would have had a different lineup had they known it was only going to be 1 for sure. Okay, but beyond that, to get to the quote about the 6 innings and 90 pitches, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
And I say that with the long-term outlook for this particular season. If that's the case, and let's say that then the buildup is like maybe 4 innings going into October. And let's say Snell and Glasnow are back and Kershaw is in, Yamamoto's in. How do you even use him? So then my initial point is, what are we doing this for then? What is the point of running him out there if you're not planning to build him up, which would then probably take the ball out of his hands in October? I just don't understand I don't understand the rationale here at this point based on the things that we've heard. Now it's Dave, so it might change on Tuesday when we hear from him next. But that just seems really odd for me to throw that it seems odd to me for him to throw that out there in public that way, that they may not build him up to that point. I guess I just don't understand the logic behind it. Then why is he doing what he's doing now? And I know you don't want to send him down because you don't want to miss his bat and all of that. Sure. But yeah, this just feels like it feels like a tease, which that's totally the team's prerogative because we want more from him as fans. But from the team standpoint and the roster standpoint, are you just then getting him out there so that way he can eat an inning or two in bullpen games? Because if that's the case, that's sort of what it's starting to seem like. And I just don't understand the logic of that. It just seems really, really weird. I'm kind of at a loss for words in terms of like trying to find some sort of rationale for that strictly based on what Dave said there. Again, that sentiment might change next week, but we heard what we heard today.
Yeah, a couple things. One, in terms of building up to whatever Ohtani's going to build up to, Dave Roberts did say after his start today that the next one, which they didn't know what day it would be yet, but the next one, you could potentially see Ohtani pitch at least into the second inning. So, maybe face a batter, at least get the exercise of doing the up down that the Dodgers like to reference with a lot of their pitchers. So, maybe we see some added length, if you will, there in that regard. Maybe he does complete 2 innings if he's efficient enough. Back to your point in terms of, what are they building him up towards and for then? Part of me wonders, in trying to figure out as you were, also trying to do like their plan moving forward. Part of me wonders a couple of things. One, is it just he's back? Like this is his first, as much as like last season was his first season after surgery, this is now his first season pitching since surgery. So are they just going to be ultra cautious and rely on the starting pitching depth that they have, which fine, like, okay, it could work, but I would push back on that as one, like, first of all, you're counting on 3 pitchers. Well, I'll say 3 just because he was in the opening day rotation.
Yeah.
Sasaki, Glasnow, and Snell, 3 pitchers that you potentially are counting on theoretically for October who aren't playing right now. Yes, Tyler Glasnow started his rehab assignment. We'll get to that, but we've seen how quickly things can go south for him for one reason or another. Blake Snell, he's throwing bullpens regularly. He's pain-free, all encouraging signs. Dave Roberts also says that he's probably not really close to facing batters. So
right.
If he's not close to facing batters yet, I mean, just looking at the timeline, like he's probably not back before like literally 4 weeks from now, like after the All-Star break, maybe August type thing. By the time he does start facing hitters and does complete a rehab assignment and then is back with the Dodgers. So great. Like if you feel like you have enough pitching depth without Ohtani being fully built up, and I'm jumping all over the place to tie this back. This line of thinking, my line of thinking is like, are they maybe not planning to pitch Ohtani in the playoffs? And they're just not going to telegraph that right now because for, competitive reasons, and things could change. Obviously, if Ohtani is built up to 4 innings and they're out of healthy starting pitchers, then I'm sure he's going to be pitching in October.
Right.
But as we sit here now in kind of their best case scenario, which I think the Dodgers, for better or worse, like to plan for moving forward, I wonder if maybe he's not in those pitching plans for October.
Very well may be the case. It's just all, and things change, right? Things can always, they always shift. But like going into spring training, the idea was that like, he's going to be part of our rotation, like probably post All-Star break. Yeah. Which led everyone to believe like he's going to be a part of the rotation. That means, assuming he's good or good enough, he would be like in a playoff kind of rotation. As far as we've heard, there's been no setbacks this year. We know he got set back a little bit by the shoulder thing in the World Series. But this year, we haven't heard of any setbacks that I can recall. I know they've sort of adjusted the schedule and the timeline a little bit, but no like injury related thing for him that I can recall. So yeah, it just feels like this whole thing is a little weird. A lot of mixed messaging, a lot of mixed signals, from some from the organization, front office, some from Dave. And it sounds like Shohei's like ready to push. Like he's the one, the reason he's pitching in these games is because he said, put me in there.
Yeah, that's true. Pinsanity is saying, here, I'll throw the comment up. He said, I'd take 3-4 innings of Ohtani instead of D-May in October. That's fair. And I get it. And that could be the case.
That's fair. I don't think it's an either or though. I think what you said is on target, Matt, where like, if they don't have those options, then yes, he's in that rotation, even if it's 3 innings. But let's assume Snell is back. Let's assume Glasnow's back. Then you have Yamamoto, and you have Kershaw, and then you have whatever other options might appear. Maybe it's Sheehan, something like that. Then where does Ohtani fit?
Well, and even in that scenario, like Dustin May, like I'm not saying
Dustin May's not in
Dustin
there.
May's not in the playoff road. Like, and again, this is which with Dodgers and Dodgers pitchers, it's a dangerous exercise. It's assuming good enough health because, like you mentioned, some of the guys that are on the injured list, Kershaw also he needs to get to October healthy as well to be part of that equation. I am of the mind that if Kershaw is healthy in the playoffs, that they're not going to tell him, "Hey, thanks, you're not making a playoff start for us now." Like they're not going. In my opinion, they're not going to do that for him. So he's a lock for them. So yes, those are 4 guys, and Dustin May, like he's not. You're not running a 5-man rotation in the playoffs.
No. And you only use that 4th guy if you need him in any particular series, depending on what off days look like. And with the Dodgers, depending on what the series score looks like, So, we're talking about this now because he pitched today and it's obviously a hot topic, but like we'll know long-term. The next start, and I don't know if Dave mentioned, I didn't see anything, but I don't know if Dave mentioned when his next start would be yet.
No, not yet.
But if he only goes 1 inning again, that'd be really interesting. Then I think the team has some explaining to do, because even though he's taking his quote unquote rehab assignment in the big leagues, if this were a normal rehab assignment, he'd be up around 4 innings by the time his 3rd start rolled around.
Yeah, definitely. Before we move on, I mentioned to the 2 super chats we had that we would discuss kind of the hitting aspect of Ohtani when he's also pitching. So he started twice now. Internally, the Dodgers knew privately that it was going to be 1 inning both times. So fine. Dave Roberts did say the day of Ohtani's first start as a pitcher that he talked to him about the lineup order, asked Shohei, do you want to stay in the leadoff? Do you want to move down? He said, no, like keep me in the leadoff spot. I'll be fine. Ohtani was leading off again today. It does seem like that is going to be the plan moving forward. Dave Roberts did say if Ohtani comes to him after the start today and says, hey, you know what, next time, like drop me down, then the Dodgers will do that. I asked Dave, because one thing I noticed, I was at both of Ohtani's starts for us, for Dodger Blue. Obviously, everybody knows when I say us, what I'm referring to. Hopefully everybody knows, but in case they don't. I was at both. I've covered both of Ohtani's starts, and after the first inning, when he's done pitching, the umpire does the sticky check on him.
Right.
And today, I felt like Ohtani, like he was doing it, and then he was ready to go towards the dugout, and he got stopped. And the umpire wanted to check his bat, and then he wanted to look at his belt. And then he wanted to look at his hat. And I felt like after the time that took, this time more so than his first start, Ohtani really rushed toward the dugout to then start getting ready. So I asked Dave, like, hey, is there a chance for you to ask the umpires to check Ohtani before he starts pitching for the first inning so that he doesn't maybe feel as rushed needing to get back to the dugout? He said they haven't. I will give myself a little bit of credit here. He said that's a good thought. So at least I know I'm not crazy. I know sometimes people in here will say, like, I don't know what I'm talking about. But then he did also mention that they do give him a little bit of extra time on the backside. I don't know how much that is. He didn't specify, but it did feel a little rushed. So kind of part of the broader discussion, where do you stand and fall? I mean, for me, it's simple. If Ohtani says he wants to keep hitting leadoff, then whatever, like leave it. But do you think it would make sense to make sense to drop him down to second or third?
Jeff and I touched on this last time. It was actually a question I posed to Jeff of would you move him down in the order, particularly during a home start, when that rush, is there. And we both sort of said, look, if Ohtani wants to do that, you leave him there for now, but you sort of monitor the situation. Seeing it today too, and like it's now a topic because I think other people are seeing it as well. Like it was on the broadcast, other reporters were tweeting about it. I think it just makes sense to not rush him. So on days that he starts at home, like if his preference really is to hit leadoff, then I think the road starts, that's probably okay. It's probably a little bit easier. I saw some people saying it's actually harder on the road. I don't agree with that necessarily. So I would think at home, and Dave also acknowledged before Ohtani's first start that possibly at home they might have that discussion about it. But I do think it seems to make more sense to just hit him second whenever he's pitching at Dodger Stadium. Give him that extra, those extra 3 or 4 minutes or whatever to kind of get himself settled and take a breath. You know what I mean? Especially if it's like a stressful first inning or something like that. Like, yeah, I'm all for that. I don't like seeing that. Like, I feel rushed for him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to catch my breath because I know what he's doing with that. Like, he doesn't even go into the dugout. Like, they got his stuff out there ready. So I would like to see that, just so he's not having to kind of basically sprint to put his gear on to hit and then sprint to the box. It just seems kind of like a obvious thing to make an adjustment with.
Yeah, and Matty Man in this comment brings up a good point. If he says worthless, I think it's a little harsh, but he says if Show is worthless in that first at bat, it defeats the purpose of getting the extra at bat. I agree. I mean, if he's winded, if he's fatigued, whatever you want to call it, if that impact, like if he makes, let's say 5, 6, 7 starts, and that still would be a small sample size, but if he's 0 for 5, 0 for 6, 0 for 7 with a couple strikeouts, maybe not hitting the ball hard in those first at bats of games that he has started, especially if they all keep coming at home, like it is something to look at, because part of the value, in my opinion, of having Ohtani in leadoff spot is he's a threat right away, right? Like he's supposed to be putting pressure on the opposing pitcher of, hey, like you better not make a mistake, because if you do, this guy's going to hit it 500 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that this may be total coincidence. Obviously, it's only been the sample size is 2, but he did not look good in either of the at-bats coming off of the mound. I think he struck out in both of them, and they were both pretty non-competitive at-bats. Small sample size, whatever, but it just seems to make logical sense to give him an extra breather before he steps into the box on days that he's pitching.
Yeah, I agree that probably makes the most sense. But again, I still, what I opened with kind of was, if Ohtani says he wants to just stay in the leadoff spot, then far be it from me. And the Dodgers won't change. Like, they'll listen to that. They're not going to say, I don't think they would say, well, actually, we have this data that says you should move down. We've seen it time and time again with other players who are stars and veterans and established and World Series champions in their own right. The Dodgers kind of deferring to them was, I don't want to call it little. I mean, this is kind of a little decision, but smaller decisions like this, they're certainly not going to rock the boat with Shohei Ohtani, who I saw, somebody comment he's the best player in MLB history, which, I mean, I knew, and I don't know if this has happened to you. We've seen him 2 years, but this is obviously the first time pitching. And you saw him, with the Angels, he was coming up. But when you stop and realize what he's doing, like, it truly is remarkable. I mean, I don't think there are a bunch of superlatives you can use to describe it, but it really is. I mean, Dave Roberts said it, I think,
it's
today.
Completely unprecedented.
Right.
Don't give me the Babe Ruth comparison is ridiculous, because Babe Ruth only pitched for like 2 years in his career, and it was early on, and he was not Ohtani. Yeah. We'll put it that way. So no player in Major League Baseball history has done what he's doing.
Yeah. It's crazy. All right, let's get to our next topic. Obviously, with today's win, the Dodgers 6-4 homestand versus 7-3, I think feels a lot different, especially if you would have had 2 of those losses coming to the Nationals, who, let's not forget, they already took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers out in Washington, D.C. earlier this year. So getting a comeback win, what are just kind of some overall thoughts on the homestand? Obviously, it was 3 against the Giants, 4 against the Padres, 2 against the Nationals. As I mentioned, they won every series. They came, as crazy as it was, they down 5-0 and Dave waved the white flag, and then they almost ended up coming back to sweep the Padres. But I think encouraging, successful homestand to cap off kind of, and some of it was part of that 29-game stretch that I know you and I heard from a lot of different people, that once the Dodgers, played the first series against the Padres, they were going to be in second place. And once they played that first series against the Giants, they were going to be in second or third place. So now to be sitting here 7-3, like it's hard to, as much as we were sort of nitpicking some things, it's really hard to
complain. Have grown the division lead on both those teams. Bravo to them, because they are not a fully healthy team. And I know a lot of teams aren't, but they are far and away, at least in their own division, the most injured team when it comes to games missed and when you count that against wins above the replacement and all that kind of stuff, the way they sort of try to measure that out, they are clearly the leader, and it's a category you don't want to lead in, but they do. And I think to continue, a lot of that momentum would have gotten sucked up if they lost the series at home to the Nationals, I think. So to win today and to have that offensive explosion, Ohtani gets another good inning under his belt, looked a little better than he did the first time. All of this is positive stuff. And I think we got to see a whole lot of Andy Paez and Max Muncy getting hot, staying hot, and reestablishing themselves as pillars in this lineup and being able to carry the load when Mookie and Freddie and even Teo kind of aren't going well.
Yeah, that was definitely encouraging. Obviously, for both those guys, I think they got really hot on the homestand, but it was real. I mean, essentially an extension of what we've seen for the past month, I would say, at least. I mean, I know Muncy definitely is going on about a month with the glasses thing and how that's kind of turned his season around. All right, other bit of news, Tyler Glasnow, we alluded to it earlier a couple times tonight. He started his rehab assignment with AAA Oklahoma City, went 2 innings, didn't allow a run, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. Kind of an interesting start, I think. I'm pretty sure he retired the side in order, maybe even the first 4 batters he faced, if I remember correctly. And then he walked the bases loaded in the second inning, and we kind of have seen him sort of spiral. I mean, it was, I guess, raining, if you will, out in Philadelphia when he ran into similar trouble there. But in this case, he was able to work his way out of it. So Glasnow's on the rehab assignment train. I imagine he's going to be making 3, 4, perhaps even 5 starts before he's maybe 3 or 4 more before he's back up with the Dodgers. Yeah, I mean, Anthony, do you have anything? For me, a lot of this is just sort of waiting and seeing, and I'm not even concerned. Like, the walks are a little concerning, but I mean, in terms of results and all that, like, I think he just needs to be healthy and feel good, I guess, is what's most important.
Yeah, I think the command issues might be to be expected. It's his first start, in a long time, so there might be a little rust there that he's still knocking off, but tomorrow will be the test. If he gets out of it and he's feeling fine, that's huge. I would hope it's not more than 4 starts for him. I assume he'll go probably 4. They'll try to stretch him to like 4 innings maybe next time if he can, depending on how the innings go for him. I would hope it's no more than 4, and I think that the Dodgers may try to get everything they can out of him, understanding that there's always that risk with him. And so, hopefully that's all it takes, and he's feeling good and ready to come back. So, yeah, tomorrow will be. I've said this before about other guys. I really don't care what the stat line says right now. It sounds like it went pretty well though. But tomorrow will be the telling day.
Yeah, that's a good point about tomorrow. The other topic we were going to discuss tonight is Hesseong Kim. I think everybody's favorite. Dave Roberts said this past week, alluding to the fact, I forgot his exact wording, but basically that Hesseong was earning himself, I think he said more looks or a longer look, something to that effect, but more opportunities to start on a regular basis. And the question was posed to Dave Roberts along the lines of, are you, with Michael Conforto's kind of ongoing struggles and not being able to get out of the rut, do you see Kim maybe taking on more opportunities? He did say that Conforto was still going to play a lot. We saw Conforto sit back-to-back games, but yes, he has then, been in the lineup right after Dave said he was going to be playing Kim. I think Kim was in the lineup that night, and then he was out of the lineup the next game or two. What we were kind of, as we were going over our plan for tonight, sort of not joking, but kind of laughing about it. I feel like Dave Roberts definitely 2 times, maybe even 3 times now, has said, like, yes, Hesseong Kim is earning, more opportunities. He's doing well, this, that, and the other. And then it kind of remains the same of he starts like twice a week, basically.
Yeah. And he's hitting lefties.
Yeah.
A big part of the reason why he was being kept out of the lineup was because they didn't want to have the lefty-lefty matchup. And he's hit them well. And I think more than necessarily the results, which are great, we'll take those. But like, he doesn't look overmatched against left-handed pitching. Like, he's not bailing out with that front shoulder, as the pitch comes and he's loading, he's getting it in there. And that's a part of, Muncy hitting that grand slam today. Like, when Muncy's feeling good, when he's facing a lefty and he can get that lead shoulder kind of dipped in to load himself versus sort of like in Little League, they would call it stepping in the bucket, right? Taking that front foot and basically moving it just straight back and kind of flailing away. What Ohtani looks like when he's not going well, right? So Kim's not doing that. So his approach there is good. Get the guy in the lineup more because he also solves other issues for you that, like he provides elements that your roster already needs, athleticism and speed. But beyond that, there's some positional versatility there, and he gives you lineup flexibility. And you can solve the Conforto issue essentially if you put him in the lineup. And so why he's not playing more is, I think it's baffling to everybody and probably including him. I'm sure Dave talks to him and says, hey, you are in the lineup today, you're not in the lineup today. Dave's great at communicating things like that. But it doesn't necessarily mean the guys understand it or agree with it. It's just, they appreciate knowing. And so, yeah, I think that the best version of this current team is with him in the lineup.
Yeah. And speaking of that versatility, we have a super chat from Jaewon Kim. Says, is the valuation of Hesseong Kim changing? When he first came over, most experts seemed to peg him as shortstop, but not many talk about that anymore. I don't remember, Kim, maybe there's a typo there. I think the majority of projections were at second base, if I remember correctly, and maybe I don't. But the Dodgers were going into this season with Mookie Betts, the plan for Mookie Betts as their shortstop. And then when they signed Hesseong Kim, I remember thinking, well, what's happening with Gavin Lux? And sure enough, like he got traded pretty much right away. And so for me, that led to the assumption that, they're going to give Kim every opportunity to be the starter at second base. And the way it worked out kind of from early into spring training and now was actually, no, he's going to be a utility guy. And that's why you're seeing him in center field. He has played shortstop a little bit and then some second base as well. I want, part of me wonders too, is if, Tommy Edman's ankle injury and then his ankle injury and not playing center field yet this season, if that wasn't the case, would we be seeing more of Hesseong Kim maybe like at second base? Like, I don't know, but
yeah, possibly. I think we all understand that he's playing a lot more outfield right now, probably because Edman's ankle. As far as him being shortstop, they're pretty committed to Mookie Betts at shortstop, at least for the near future. And which is fine because Mookie Betts has played a pretty good shortstop. And I think he's going to get better. It's weird to say, but as he gets older, he's going to get better. That'll plateau at some point because eventually he's just going to be an older player. But I say that to say, like, with another offseason, assuming he's healthy, to work on that part of the game, Mookie Betts is going to be a pretty good defensive shortstop. And so, yeah, I don't think they have any sights on Kim being there. I think maybe third base in the future could be a possibility with him. But yeah, I think they would really like to see him start to improve in center field. I think they're already pretty confident that he can play second base at this level. But we know the Dodgers really value that positional flexibility. So they're going to they're going to use him where they can, as long as they can. So, which you would think would afford him more opportunities that he's getting right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's almost like his versatility, though, is, I don't want to say hurting him, but he's definitely not bent. Like, usually, like, we've seen it over the years with, obviously, Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, even Zach McKinstry when he was on the team. Like, those guys wanted to be these super utility players because it meant more playing time, because they could be moved around and start here on Monday and then start in center field on Tuesday and then left field on Wednesday, whatever the case is. We haven't seen that with Kim. I mean, he's, kind of been locked into center field, and ironically, like, it's his worst position. And I say that from the standpoint of he just hasn't had enough experience.
He's never played it before. Yeah.
Right. So it's not like I don't think he can handle it eventually type thing. It's more of just he's being, go learn it on the fly, kind of what they did to Andy Pajes last year, which is
and Gavin Lux.
Yeah, Gavin Lux as well. Yeah, so it's kind of similar, kind of funny to see them repeating that. I was seeing comments for about $100 donuts, I believe. We're gonna need some clarity for that as we get into our questions. I know you guys, some of you guys enjoy when we discuss food, but I want to know about that. Like, what happened there? And I think it was only for a dozen donuts or something. So, yeah, give us some details if you can. I'll try to mark it as we get to the question portion. Carlos with another super chat says, "Whose bat is hotter, Pages, Kim, or Muncy?"
They both have Pages and Muncy have about a month's worth of at bats where they've been like really good. If I recall correctly, I think Pages' numbers are a little better. That might have changed after today with Muncy's performance, but man, they have been fantastic. Yeah. I mean, they have just been a real shot of energy into this lineup at the right time. For Pages at the right time because he was on the verge of maybe going down.
Yeah,
you know, there was a time there toward the end of April where it was like, how much longer do we give this guy, considering he's not great defensively at that time, and he was searching for it at the plate. So to see him kind of make that 180 is great. Muncy's a guy that I think we always knew was going to kind of figure this out. His track record is too strong, and he was really good last year. It was just a matter of sort of, you know, maybe it was the glasses, it was a change in approach. Chad Murakama from Dodger Digest today tweeted in response to our Blake Williams something about Muncy, saying, "Whoever told Muncy to start hitting the ball on the ground should be put on trial." And I totally agree, because I think we saw what the results that experiment produced. And once Muncy kind of got back to doing what he was doing, along with the glasses, he's hitting the ball again like an all-star. Today was just a fantastic continuation of that. And look, going into Coors Field against a bad team, maybe some of these guys can get right there. So, you know, some of the guys who are not Pages and Kim and Will Smith and Max Muncy, maybe some of those other guys can get themselves right in that environment, you know, and start to feel better about things.
So I want to make sure you and I are on the same page. What I'm hearing from you is you're predicting a big series for Michael Conforto.
I'm not Jeff.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Yeah, I mean, it you know, choosing between Pages and Muncy and even Kim. I saw somebody saying Kim isn't playing enough to consider his bat hot. Yeah, I mean, I think with Kim, like, it's sort of because his playing time is so sporadic. It's kind of like, oh, he just keeps hitting rather than like he has a hot bat where he's in there every day and he's, you know, on these 5-game hitting streaks type thing,
which kind of makes it more impressive.
Yeah, that's true.
The fact that he's not getting consistent at bats, but every time he's getting, I mean, that's not the right word. The at bats are consistent. They're just not every day.
It's a different type of challenge in that.
Totally. Yeah. And it's tough. It is tough. And every time his number's called to start, you know, he's doing something positive.
Pinsanity says, with that big outfield, we might get an inside the Parker for Hesseong Kim. That would be fun to watch.
Candidate there for sure. Yeah.
That'll be fun to watch and keep an eye on. All right, let's go backwards a little bit, Anthony. You and I have not been on. Neither one of us have been on since the Padres series ended with the fireworks.
Yeah.
And Mike Schilt did make some interesting comments. I believe it was the day after the series ended down in San Diego, once the Padres were starting their next series, I think against the Royals. I'll read that to everybody here in a second, but I just want to hear some of your thoughts on kind of that the whole thing. If you want to focus on Mike Schilt and Dave Roberts, like, that's fine. If you want to kind of expand it with Fernando Tatis getting hit, 6 times and the Padres making a big deal out of that.
Yeah.
And then actually Max Muncy has been hit 11 times since Tatis made his debut in Dodger Padres games. Will Smith, I think, was second on the list at 9. So it was interesting to see Tatis sort of being made this martyr and like this crazy exception to the rule when actually he's not even first on that list.
Yeah, it's just the lack of self-awareness from Mike Schilt, a guy who is supposed to be the leader of that team and sort of set their tone, is incredible. It's just, I would not have thought that a manager could be that blind to obvious situations, to things that his own team has done, to things that the other team has done. They could say Andy Pages started this with the stare down of Cease, which Cease, I thought, did a great job of just sort of, okay, guy, like it's whatever. Okay, you're good.
Yeah.
And then Pi has even said, look, I overreacted. I did think he threw at me, but I overreacted. Okay, cool. It maybe ends there if Mike Shildt isn't standing on the damn rail yelling about Andy Paez, which then fires his own team up, right? Because at that moment, for the Padres in that dugout, Mike Shildt turned it into that kind of war. It was not that way on the Dodgers side. Paez went in and said, I overreacted. The team was probably like, all right, man, don't get us into anything that we're not trying to get into. We got bigger fish to fry, right? But on the other side, on the other dugout, in the other clubhouse, there was fire in their eyes. Mike Shildt set that tone. It wasn't Manny Machado. It wasn't Fernando Tatis. It was him. You know, and the whole stuff with him and Dave Roberts then in that last game, just give me a break, dude. Act like the adult in the room. If you don't like it, fine. Have a conversation with Dave Roberts after the game. Or have it with him before the first game of the next series in August. Like, you're not going to forget.
And that's good. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but because you're bringing that point up, let me read Shilt's comment, his quote to everybody. He was asked basically, and well, real quick, let me clarify. I said Max Muncy's been hit 11 times. It's actually Will Smith who was 11 times in the games between the Dodgers and the Padres. Muncy is who was 9. So my apologies there. Eden caught me on that. Shildt was asked on Friday, so the day after the Dodgers and Padres finished their series, the suspensions had been handed down from MLB, if it was personal between him and Dave Robert. And he said, quote, another good question. I'm competing for our team. You know, there's some history that's very public with what happened last year with Manny that I took exception to. So I handled that very privately. This got to be more public, and it's ultimately about the defense of our team, and anybody that is going to take the steps that I feel are inappropriate against our team, then I will take action. But I'm not a personal guy. I'm not a grudge guy, but I am a foxhole guy. So that's the end of his quote. To your point, you said, if you have an issue with it, address it with Dave Roberts after the fact. Where I agree with you, and what gets me is Mike Shildt coming out and saying that he addressed it with Dave Roberts privately. The Manny Machado stuff from the NLDS last year when Machado threw the ball towards the Dodgers dugout.
Right.
I'm not calling Shildt a liar. Obviously I have no insight. Dave Roberts has never volunteered one way or the other, if you heard from Shildt. So I'm not here to say whether or not that's true. I'm inclined to take him for his word. I don't think he would sit there and flat out lie.
That's fair.
What I will push back on is this notion of being the person who is about handling these things, quote, privately, the way that he said. Because before that, during the NLDS, Shildt he was sitting down. He had his press conference with media and completely blasted Dave for the comments that Dave Roberts said. Shildt said a manager should never, I'm paraphrasing, but an opposing manager should never criticize a player in that sense, blah, blah, blah. I guess I'm just from a different school and this, that, and the other. How is that private when you're sitting in front of media at a press conference during a playoff series against the Dodgers and you know that this is going to get blasted out there?
Yeah. He's an idiot. Like seriously, like I don't mean to like try to be funny with that, but like when you look at the history of the things that he said and the actions that he's taken, those things are contradictory. They don't match up. And the way he acted in that series is completely unnecessary, illogical, and embarrassing for that organization. Because what if Andy Paez would have went at Dylan Cease after that first one? Because Andy Paez thought he was getting thrown at. He said that even after the game, even though when he acknowledged I shouldn't have reacted the way I did, he said, I think that they threw at me intentionally. What would Shilt's reaction had been to that? Because we saw it play out in the other direction. When the Dodgers, in clear situations, that guy was making his major league debut. This guy's trying to stick around. He's not going to hit Fernando Tatis on purpose. And Shildt did what he did based on that. And it's just, it's completely ridiculous. Like, I don't have any respect for that guy as a baseball person anymore. Like most managers, I'm like, yeah, man, you've earned this shot. You've been in the game a long time. You've earned this shot. I'll leave it here. It's no wonder now, and I know he hasn't been the manager the entire time of this whole San Diego Padres generation. It's no wonder that organization has culture problems.
Yeah. And I think both things can be true. Like, I know you're not sitting up here. I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth. Like, and I'm not going to say Schilt and the Padres should be perfectly okay with the number of times Tatis or any of their players were hit.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
If you could, both things, it can be both unintentional on the Dodgers' part and also still upset the Padres. Like, that is fair. I think there are kind of, the unwritten rules of, hey, if you're going to pitch inside, like, you better be able to control and command everything and not just hit batters all the time. Like, I get that, and that is fair. I think that can also be true without you then needing to go and kind of, make this a whole scene when, again, like, read the room. Like, the ironic thing also with all of this, beyond Schilt saying he handles things privately because he didn't last year with Machado.
Yeah, that's not true.
And he didn't this past series with the Dodgers. The other irony with all of this, I know there aren't Padre fans in here. If they happen to catch this video after the fact, I'm sure it's not going to go over well with them. The two instances of a batter clearly being hit was Shohei Ohtani.
Both
and so
times. Yeah.
I sort of look at that as like, if you're the Dodgers, it's like, well, wait a minute, like, fine, you're upset with us, but the fact of the matter is we didn't mean to hit you. You purposely threw at Ohtani both times. Like, are the Dodgers in some sense like allowed some sort of retribution at this point? Like, baseball rules, you could argue that they sort of are. As you mentioned, they have bigger fish to fry. Like, they're not going to get caught up in all of that stuff. But that's the crazy part in all of this is the Padres made this, stomp their feet, kicked all the dirt up. When in reality, like, if any pitcher purposely threw at somebody, it was your guys doing it.
I'll say this. The last hit batter of this thing was Ohtani. Obviously on purpose. Like, Major League Baseball didn't even need to review this thing. They were like, suspended. Guys are suspended now. But Ohtani's like, okay, everybody calm down. In our dugout, chill out. It's fine. I'm all right. If this thing continues when they meet in August and it's the Padres who look like they're continuing this on, Schilt needs to be hit with a 10-game suspension, something like that, because the context now has changed to the point where, like, and I'm not saying this is going to be over. I actually don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
But Ohtani's gesture there should be like this on the fuse. It should be, because the Dodgers aren't going to throw at anybody on purpose. They have not done that during this run of seasons. They have not been that kind of team. Which another ironic thing was Schilt said that the Padres are not that kind of team, but the Dodgers are. It's just completely stupid. But if the Padres decide then after that with Shohei Ohtani to continue this thing, Schilt needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what I'm worried about, honestly, with that August series is hopefully the Dodgers have. I think the other thing too is look at like Lou Trevino. You've been hit by Lou Trevino. You've been the name's escaping me. Jack Little, like, he's making his MLB debut. Like, these aren't like long time. This isn't Michael Kopech throwing at somebody. This isn't Blake Trinan or even Joe Kelly. Like, he's been around, but his reputation. Like, he might do something like these guys aren't. They're just. I don't want to say they're not good. Pitches are more likely to get away from them than they are some of these other established relief pitchers. Yeah. My concern with the August series, and again, the Dodgers are going to play. They're playing 2 weekends in a row because of the schedule makers. Like, if something accidentally happens, as we saw this past week, the Padres, their perception is going to be, oh, that one was on purpose, and now like they're going to continue to escalate it, type thing. And that's where this turns into just. It's a no-win situation at all for the Dodgers, unfortunately. But
yeah, agreed.
Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, and I guess hopefully, people will be not perfect, but hopefully pitchers will basically be perfect and not accidentally hit someone, because the Padres, that has always been my thing in these head-to-head matchups ever since since 2020, when kind of the rivalry sort of became a rivalry, if you will. Was if the Dodgers accidentally do something like that, the Padres have this huge chip on their shoulder that, oh, that was intentional, and now we have a problem. And it turns into something that it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. we can kind of kill this conversation, but I did want to add one thing, is that the whole rivalry discussion, this is why for me it's only a rivalry in the moment. It's only a rivalry because the Padres are good or good enough that, you know, they have to be paid attention to. And they've also beaten the Dodgers in the postseason. The reason why, like, to your initial answer on this show about it's a rivalry, but they're not rivals, I think that was kind of what you were saying, is because if the Padres were in last place or the Dodgers were in last place, no one would give a damn about the Padres and Dodgers playing. If the Giants were in fourth place and the Dodgers were in fifth place in any season, and those two teams meet, those two fan bases hate each other. And Max Muncy said it best. You bring a guy over here and he's here a month. The first time he plays the Giants as a Dodger, he feels that rivalry, even if both teams suck or if one of those teams sucks. The Padres, this is only a thing because the Padres got good enough to be a threat to the Dodgers. If one of these teams were to go back down to the bottom of the standings, these games wouldn't matter to the players the way they are right now. They wouldn't matter to the fan bases the way they are right now. The Giants and Dodgers, that's a different story. That's a long-term rivalry. This is in the moment.
Yeah. Good point. All right. That's enough for that. Let's Anthony and I want to make sure we leave enough time to answer as many questions as possible as you guys have. So as a reminder, just start it with the word question in all caps. It helps us sort of pick them out as we're scrolling, because I know you guys also are kind of replying to each other back and forth as well. We have a super chat from Genji. It says, daily reminder to vote for Pages. Yes, All-Star Game voting ends. It's coming up, I think, this week. I forgot the exact date, but you can vote, I think, 5 times per day, something to that effect. And it's not just Pages. You can, Teoscar Hernandez is on track to start. Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, I believe it was Mookie. I forget Mookie was trailing, and Ohtani. Ohtani was the leading vote getter in the National League. While we're waiting for some questions to come in, I saw this one. Hawaiian Kira, it was early, it wasn't a question, but she said Sunday day games are just baking sessions. Yeah. I wanted to ask you what you think about Sunday day games, because I've argued with Jeff, Blake. I don't know if Daniel has strong feelings one way or the other. I enjoy the Sunday 1:10 games at Dodger Stadium. Now, it is with the caveat and the acknowledgement that I am sitting in the press box and not in the sun. So that is a big caveat. Like, if you're able to sit in the shade, and today wasn't that hot. Like, if it gets up to 100 plus, like it is a little challenging. But I enjoy Sunday afternoon games. Where do you fall on those?
I don't. The Dodgers probably have the least amount of day games, maybe. I know they used to. I don't know what that count is now, because I know that Major League Baseball had to talk to them about adding more. So I'm not sure where they fall in that count now, but they used to be known for like having the least amount of day games in baseball. I'm fine with them. I don't understand why, especially on Sunday. I don't understand why there would be an issue with them from the other guys if they don't like them. It's the Dodgers don't do a ton of them, especially during the week. That's a rarity where almost every other organization has weekday day games. For the Dodgers, they're fairly rare, even on getaway days for the other team, which was one of the things Major League Baseball had a chat with the Dodgers about a few years ago. I'm fine with them. But to that comment, it's right. Like, if you're sitting in the wrong side, like on the third base side, it can get pretty hot.
Yeah.
But that's any stadium. That's any open air stadium, though. Like, we play baseball in the summer.
Yeah. I don't know. I forgot what Jeff's stance.
San Francisco gets hot. If you're sitting, sorry to cut you off there, but just to drive that point home, San Francisco gets hot. If you're sitting in the sun at that stadium and it's 65 degrees, 70 degrees outside, you start to bake.
Yeah. I haven't done that yet, because I was up there for the NLDS in 21, and so obviously those were night games. I have been at Dodger Stadium for an afternoon game when it is very hot, and it's not comfortable. It's not fun, but as a whole, and I will say, yes, to your point, like the midweek 12:10, 1:10 starts, like those are hard just because of traffic. But Sunday morning, driving in, it's easy. Coming home, it's easy. And then, sitting there watching a game during the afternoon when it's not too hot, like, it's I don't know. I've always enjoyed it.
And to the people who, like, maybe are against them for whatever reason, like, it's hard to take a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old to games that end at 10 o'clock. And then you got to fight traffic to get out on a Wednesday, and they have school the next day, and you have work the next, sometimes families need that Sunday 1 o'clock game to be able to take their kids.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, Jeff and Blake, when you guys watch this back or listen to it, then why don't you try considering the kids and the families out there next time instead of being so selfish?
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, what's their problem?
Those guys.
All right, we have some good questions here. GI wants to know any concerns over Kasparius moving to the rotation. Last two, and he put starts in quotes because he's followed Ohtani.
Yeah,
haven't gone so well.
A little bit. There might be something there. He hasn't looked this sharp. I'll say that.
Yeah,
the man's been a little iffy. I would like to give it one more run, and if he has another bad outing, I think you sort of revisit this thing. And when I say revisit it, I don't mean you necessarily have to ditch the idea of him being a starter or being stretched out like that, but maybe you actually let him start a game versus coming in the second inning and then trying to get bulk innings out of him. But yeah, it hasn't. These first two go-arounds haven't looked great for him.
Yeah, and I know Kasparius won't use it as any sort of excuse, but part of me does wonder if maybe there's a little bit of sort of messing with his psyche of like, hey, you are a starter, but actually still pitching out of the bullpen after, an inning from Ohtani. Like, whereas when he was a reliever, like it was pretty much for the most part, especially up until recently, it was clear like, yes, you could come in maybe at the fourth or fifth inning if there's a situation, but you're not necessarily following an opener immediately type thing. So again, he won't use it as an excuse. I'm not saying that is the reason, but pardon me, to your point, like I would, if he has another sort of bumpy outing, maybe give him an actual traditional start, see how that goes before you maybe reevaluate the kind of role he might be in. And I mean, at that point, maybe Tyler Glasnow is coming back anyway, and
sure.
And then Kasparius can kind of go back into the bullpen, even though I think he wants to be a starter long term. But I just, on this team right now and the way it's constructed, at least for the next 2 or 3 years, like I don't know if that'll happen. We'll see. Good question. Alleluia wants to know what is going on with Brewstar. How hurt is he, and will he pitch this season? Also, will Kim have a chance for Rookie of the Year if he doesn't get enough at bats? He's in second place right now. Brewstar Gratterall had shoulder surgery, so the plan kind of all along was for him to, I believe it was just labrum, if I remember correctly, was for him to be a second half guy. And so not really any updates because he wasn't necessarily going to be factoring into the equation at this point anyway. I guess we're kind of getting close to where maybe we should start hearing a little bit more of like, yes, he's throwing bullpens regularly, and he might be, and it's just not something that's getting out. Like he's at Camelback doing this stuff. Hesseong Kim, I mean, do you see him having a chance for rookie? I don't, just from the standpoint of he's not playing enough.
He's not playing enough right now. I would like to see him play more and be up in that mix. But yeah, I just don't see him having enough at bats to be a threat there.
Matty Man, don't you guys think it's amazing this team is gaining ground on everyone while our stars are slumping? Yes. Yeah, I mean that was kind of, I know we sort of alluded to it earlier, kind of referencing the schedule aspect of it, but I think this is another reminder, Matty Man, not for you specifically, just kind of for everybody. Like Anthony, you and I have sat up here, like going into kind of the difficult stretch. We said, like, we both agree, like, yes, like it looks challenging on paper, but there's no guarantee that the Padres were going to play 800 baseball as the Dodgers went 500 or sub 500. Ended up being if anything, ended up being the opposite. The Dodgers took care of the Padres twice. So, yeah, I mean, this is why you sometimes have to just let the game sort of play themselves out, because as much as you can kind of maybe predict and sense what might be coming, Andy Pages completely turns his season around. Max Muncy completely turns his season around. And the Dodgers are here ripping off wins as the MV3 kind of struggles.
Right. Yeah. Matty Man's right. Not only with guys in the lineup struggling, but two of the top 3 guys in the rotation expected, Snell and Glasnow, not being here for any of this. Yeah. And Ohtani, having not pitched, he's pitched 2 innings this season. So aside from the bullpen issues that they've had with injuries and things like that. So, it really is amazing that this team has been able to hold up this way. And I think that's why to sort of tie a bow on this conversation. I think it's why they don't make any blockbuster kinds of deals at the deadline, because they're going to feel like their moves are some of those guys coming back.
Yeah, and Zenji's kind of expanding on it, saying Dodgers have one of the easier schedules for the remainder of this season, going to be cruising by August. I want to pump the brakes on that as well, because it goes both ways. Like, as much as, a lot of fans were panicked as the Dodgers were heading into that NL West stretch of games. They almost lost 2 or 3 to the, I don't want to say almost, because there were still 4 or 5 innings left in the game, but Soroka was no hitting them. Like, they almost lost a series to the Nationals. Anything can kind of happen. You just need to try to win as many series as you can. And ultimately, especially for the Dodgers, just be healthy come October, and then you let those chips fall where they may. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Eden wants to know, when can Emmett Sheehan be back? So it's 15 days from the day he was optioned, unless the Dodgers happen to have another injury, and then he'd be eligible to kind of replace that pitcher. But obviously, if you're the Dodgers, that's not necessarily something you want to hope for, if you will, or count on, because they've had a bunch of injuries already. Hawaiian Kira is saying, when do you think Kershaw gets 3,000? So 3,000 strikeouts. So his next start is Thursday. It's an afternoon game out at Coors Field. He's 8 away. Does he get it at Coors Field, or do you think it's his next start after?
Yeah, I think it's the next start after that. Ball doesn't do exactly what it should at Coors Field. Not to say that he can't have good swing and miss numbers. I just don't think he gets to 8.
Yeah, I think he gets like 3 or 4 against the Rockies. Maybe 5 would be the sweet spot. If he gets 5, then I think he's in.
Then he definitely does it the next time.
Then he definitely does it the next time at home. If he only gets like 3, then it puts a little bit of pressure to do it at home. And it would be unfortunate for it to get to that. And it's not, again, like, the Dodgers are playing for much more, but just considering it's Clayton Kershaw, what he's meant to the franchise and the city and all that, like, it would be a bummer. Yeah, it would be a bummer if he gets to like 1 away and his home start finishes, and then his next one is out on the road type thing. Like, that would be a disappointment, but we'll see. So Hawaiian Cure, Anthony and I both agree, not his Coors Field start, but the next one, which I think would be against the White Sox, is what it puts him online to face. Don Kim says, is Pasadena more than a mile away from Dodger Stadium? Sidecar Donuts has a location in Pasadena down the street from Lucky Boy on Arroyo, where you can get 1 dozen donuts for approximately $60. So I guess this is the donuts question, or my question to the donuts discussion. Have you ever spent anywhere close to that on donuts before?
Not for a dozen. Like, if I'm buying donuts for like the office or the press box or something like that, sure. But for a dozen, I'm sorry, there's no donut that's worth. There's not a dozen donuts that's worth $60 for me.
Yeah, I agree. What about the other question, Anthony? I know I was giving you a little bit of a hard time of how far / close Pasadena is to Dodger Stadium.
What was I talking about? I said you could see that coming from Pasadena or something like that. And then you said Pasadena's not that far. Then I said it's more than a mile away, which is the saying. You saw that coming from a mile away. Yeah. So me and Matt were going back and forth a little bit there.
Yeah. All right. Let's see, what else do we have here. JP says, I know a lot of Robert's flaws were pardoned once he managed well in the playoffs. He puts in parentheses that was out of necessity and not strategy. But has this punting business got out of control? Ridiculous to be punting down 3-0.
Good question.
I don't know what game do you know what game he's referencing when they were down 3-0 and they?
No, I don't think he would ever punt a game down 3-0. But I will say this: it hasn't gotten out of control because it's always been this. I think we're just maybe noticing it more now for some reason, but he's been doing this for a while. This has been sort of an organizational philosophy, not like a Dave Roberts thing, where because the Dodgers, before, a lot of teams employed on the bench a game strategist and, say, okay, if the game goes one way, here's our plan. If it goes another way, here's our plan. If it goes the other way, we have a third plan, that kind of thing. They've been doing this for years. I think it's just getting more attention now, maybe for some reason. But yeah, this is not something that's been out of the norm for them to go, you know what? Okay, third game of this series, we think if we do this, we're going to have a better chance to to win that one. So we'll throw a low leverage guy out there to give us 4 innings and have, he'll have to wear it if he's bad or whatever. So I don't think I think it's always been this, at least for, the recent past it's been.
Our astute admin tonight is pointing out that Dave Roberts pulled the starter today after 1 inning, and they ended up going down 3-0, and so the game was punted before they came back.
Stand corrected there. Yeah, that's a great point.
And I did see somebody saying, I don't know, says the last Padres game he gave up in the 8th down 3-0. I thought that one.
It was 5-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was 5-0, or did it get to 5-0 in the 9th maybe at some point? And I don't know. I mean, I know that deficit grew to 5-0. I felt like it was 5-0 when he started pulling everybody out, and that's what our admin is saying as well. So I think it might have been 5-0. Well, JP is saying 3-0. Anyway, fine. To the greater question, the bigger question.
I mean, saying he punted a game when those guys didn't come out until the 8th inning, that's different. If he's taking guys out in the 5th and 6th innings, that's a punt. Those situations aren't necessarily the same. And also, I think you're more so punting based on pitching decisions, not so much like you guys are just complaining about Mookie being terrible. He took Mookie out. And I know Rojas ended up getting the at-bat that Mookie would have gotten, but
yeah,
okay.
So, and that's, I was going to mention that Deuce is saying is he thinks the comment is saying that punting was because Little went into the game. I think that sort of gets to be a little bit of slippery slope because it comes down to, as you said, the Dodgers have always done this from the standpoint of they're going to protect their relievers. And if it means, using Jack Little instead of Kirby Yates for a 3rd game in a row when they're trading 3-0, if you think that that's a punt, then fine, so be it.
They needed an arm. Yeah, that's the whole reason he was brought up.
The Mookie Betts / Miguel Rojas at bat, that became a thing only because the Padres started to completely melt down because there are a lot of words I want to describe for what they were trying to do, but they were intent on hitting Ohtani, and then that inning started a spiral from it. If that inning goes the way it probably should have in a 5-0 game with that part of the Dodgers lineup coming up, Mookie's spot never comes up again. And and nobody is saying, well, look at what would have happened if you had Mookie still in the lineup, in the game type thing.
According to the chat, he just would have popped up.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so I think the punting thing has maybe been more obvious also because they've used position players more frequently this season than
they got to stop
in the past.
I'm not saying there's no place for it, and I was not a guy who was up in arms when he did it the first couple times or whatever, but it can't be every time you get up big or get down big. At some point, just close the game. The guy's not a pitcher. Stop using him like that.
Yeah.
And I know you're trying to save arms, but you have other low leverage guys. But every time you do this now, you run the risk of having to get somebody up anyway.
And that's what happened today. And that's what the super chat from 300 GJW says, with more upset with Kike pitching, Trevino could have went another inning. I was shocked. I thought once Trevino came in the 8th that he was just going to finish. They blew the game open. It's Lou, with all, as Daniel would say, with all due respect, it's Lou Trevino. Let him pitch 2 innings. If his arm is a little sore and you can manage, you can manage without Lou Trevino, I think, for Tuesday's game against the Rockies. But yeah, that and Vesia, to your point, Vesia ended up having to come in. And I know that in Dave's mind, you're not planning on that inning getting away from Kike. I also, when Vesia came in, I would have let Kike at least face that batter because worst case, if they hit a grand slam, then they're still down, 4 or 5, I think it would have been.
Yeah.
Then maybe get to Vesia if you need to. But yeah, I agree with you. The position player stuff's getting a little, it's happening.
He's going to the well too often.
Yes, where it's not like a novelty anymore. It's more of, it's become a nuisance of let's end this game, please. Mixel Phil, I'm not 100% sure how to announce this. Wants to know if Dodger Blue ever reported the $1 million donation like the White House trip. Yes, we have covered what the Dodgers have stated, what they have done, what has kind of been happening. So yes, we do have articles up on that. We have social posts up on that as well. All right, a few more here. John Del Toro wants to know who starts Tuesday. The Dodgers don't have a probable listed right now. It's TBD on Tuesday, Yamamoto Wednesday, Kershaw Thursday. Robleski, I think, could factor into Tuesday. Maybe that's part of a bullpen game. Maybe the Dodgers go straight bullpen game. So it's TBD as their game notes have it listed. All right. Let's see. I think Hawaiian Kira says, is this the stretch in the schedule where you would sit Mookie and or Freddie to have them rest or reset?
No. Like a game, if they sat a game in this next series, sure.
I think that's what she's. I think that's probably what she's asking.
Like I said, Coors Field's a place you might try to get guys right.
Yeah. Dave mentioned that point specifically after today. If you guys haven't watched the post-game video we have up on our YouTube channel, do that. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but he did bring up, getting a series win and now going to Coors Field, maybe that can help, players turn things around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is something that's on his mind. All right. We have a couple more here. Back-to-back wants to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is Sandy Alcantara to the Dodgers?
3.
I was going to say 4. So yeah, I think we're about the same range. NS wants to know what Blake Williams ate at the game today. Blake was not at the game today. I was. So you can ask Blake.
You eat?
I had a chocolate croissant at home in the morning. I think they're from Trader Joe's. My wife gets them. I think they're from Trader Joe's. So that was my quote unquote breakfast. And then I had a bag of Doritos at the game. And I am looking forward to dinner tonight, to answer your question.
There you go. Yeah, I got my wife does a spicy sausage with spicy red sauce. And I like spaghetti noodles with this. So that's waiting for me as soon as we're done here.
And Blake says that he's been taking food to the games because he's boycotting the $15.
Blake's lunch pailing it. I like it.
$15.
Got the hard hat on, lunch pail.
Punching in, punching out. All right, let's see. We have a few more here. Back to back also with another one. He wants to know, do you think the Lakers could have beat the NBA champs OKC? Were the Wolves just a bad matchup?
Do you think the Lakers could have beat the NBA champ? No and yes. I think had they gotten a different matchup in the first round, they could have gone farther. I thought they matched up better with OKC than just about anyone in the West. But having seen some of the issues that were exposed during that Minnesota series, I don't think they would have beaten OKC in a 7-game series.
That's fair. I think they probably would. I was not OKC and the Cavs. I was not sold on either one as a playoff team heading into this. Obviously, OKC ended up winning it all. I think I joked with a friend of mine that the finals went to a game 7 because the Thunder and Pacers were both. I said it's a hot take, like kind of joking, but basically that they were both average teams, and so neither one of them was good enough to put the other away, and that's why it went to game 7.
I did not think OKC was. I did not think they were as dominant a team or as sure thing a team as their regular season record. I'll put it that way. And yes, going into the postseason, I thought the Lakers, if they got them, could beat them. Seeing some of the things that Minnesota exposed, though, in them, my stance sort of changed on that. But yes, I do think Minnesota was probably the worst matchup they could have gotten in that first round.
And Boston Blake chiming in, the Celtics would have won.
Oh my gosh!
All right, we're going to end this with a couple food questions. The first one is from Wolf Mask Jack, who says, "New dad here. What's the go-to lunch/snack? Dino Buddies, pizza rolls, or Uncrustables?"
Is Jack asking for himself or the kid?
I think this is for Jack. I think Jack wants to know what snacks he should be eating now that he's a dad.
Dad snacks. Okay. Well, pizza rolls and pizza bagels, always for the win. I love those. We have boxes of Uncrustables in our freezer right now because those are always a quick win for the 2.5-year-old.
That's also the Mookie diet. He said those helped him gain some weight after he had his stomach issue.
Yeah. What else here? I mean, it sounds like this is the lane I think we're swimming in right now. So like Hot Pockets.
Okay.
I'll do those every once in a while. I mean, yeah. If we're going unhealthy kind of stuff, yeah.
when you say do those, is this like you're eating them as well, or you're
No,
making
I'll eat them. I'll eat them. Because if we're asking, if Jack is asking for himself, these are all things like I would eat them.
Okay.
But the Uncrustables in the freezer, those are for the baby.
Got it. All right. Iris is saying Nick Castellanos also likes Uncrustables. I'm not. Oh, and here he said for both. So it sounds like it's a joint effort that he's looking for. All right. Let's sneak in one baseball one because I think it's a good one. JP says, do you guys honestly see the Padres as a threat in the West? Honestly, they look very average. So I was down in San Diego for that series, and then I covered 3 of 4, and then Blake took the other one here when the Padres came back up. And I did come away from that thinking Padres are a waste of my time. Like this, I joke that these are like the featherweight Dodgers right now because of all their injuries, and the Padres couldn't win either series against the Dodgers. Here at Dodger Stadium, the Dodgers ran 3 bullpen games in a row, and beat them each time. And so, I know the Padres have their own injuries. Like, fine, they're not 100% either. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much. From a talent standpoint, like, sure. Like, if you get into a 5-game series, do the Padres have enough talent to upset the Dodgers? Yes. But outside of that, I mean, I don't know how much of a threat that they really are now after getting to see them in person.
Yeah. I feel the same way about the Giants. I don't think they're going to score enough long term. And if they've had anywhere near the rotation injury luck that the Dodgers have had, they'd be so out of this thing by now.
Yeah.
So I think the Dodgers probably win this division by like 8 games, and that's kind of right around the floor for me, I think.
Blake brings up a good point. I know he's been on this stat a few times, sharing it on social media. He says Padres are 18-28 versus winning teams. People get mad when the Dodgers have a winning record against those teams. Yeah, I mean that always seems to get brought up. Like, oh, well, what's the Dodgers record against teams over 500? And if they are about 500, it's they haven't played anybody. But
yeah, well, they just went 17-12 against an entire stretch against teams that were 500 or better. So
yeah, and for some reason, I do feel like with the Padres that this 18-28 record does get overlooked. So Blake, thank you for sharing that here. All right, let me see. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Otherwise, we do have one interesting one from Hawaiian Kira. Not interesting, but a fun one. No. All right, last one for tonight. Hawaiian Kira wants to know, where are the best donuts? I'm going to, as you think about it, I'm going to say it's not necessarily one spot per se. I think the best donuts are found at kind of like the independent, or if it's a multiple location, but not quite a chain, like those types of places. Like Krispy Kreme, I'm out. I will say, I know Winchell's is a chain, but they're kind of like the old fashioned, like I think they make good donuts. But other than that, I think it's kind of your mom and pop driving down, a boulevard, and you happen to see a donut shop, and hey, let's pop in and see what it is.
Yeah, I was going to say the mom and pop shops are always a win, I think, for this stuff. Danny Trejo's donuts. If I'm around there, I might.
Actually, I did have those. I think my aunt got those for something one time. I did, and it was good.
Yeah, they're good. I don't know if they're the best, but like I'm a Danny Trejo fan, so like I'll pop in. I'll support.
Randy's, have you done those?
Randy's a solid. I think Randy's a solid.
Like they've cornered the market in terms of like marketing and popularity for like being the LA donut, I would say.
I know that, and they've expanded. They're outside of Southern California now too.
Yeah. So, all right, there you have it. I think we both agree that a mom and pop shop. Oh, here, Anthony, you're a big Danny Trejo fan. Blake has a question for you. He wants to know if it's the actor from Star Wars that you're talking about.
Was Danny Trejo in Star Wars?
If Blake is making that, if he's asking that, then he must have been. Just like I had no idea until the other day that Blake tweeted that Lizzo was in something for Star Wars as well. I thought she was just not just in like a demeaning way, but I thought she was a singer. I had no idea that she was acting in Star Wars, but that is how Blake, you heard he was very excited to be covering the celebrity game that Lizzo played in, and Lil Wayne. Blake's a big Lil Wayne fan too as well.
Yeah, I can see it.
So, all right. That's going to do it for us tonight. We went an hour and 40 minutes, so a little bit longer than normal. Anthony, I appreciate you for hanging in there with me. Guys, I know I appreciate I was pinch hitting tonight for Jeff. As I mentioned, he should be back on Tuesday night, back with Anthony, and that will be after the Rockies series opener. Maybe Justin Robleski, maybe a bullpen game. We'll have to see. As a reminder, if you haven't done so yet, please visit us on YouTube, Dodger Blue 1958. Hit the like button on this video, subscribe to our channel, ring the notification bell. That way you can be sure that you don't miss any of the videos or live shows that we do. And if you help us get to 100,000, you're going to be subscribers. You're going to be entered to win a big giveaway we're doing. I think it'll probably be a jersey. We're still waiting to see once we get to that threshold what the big prize will be. But I'm thinking that it's probably going to be in a jersey. So you'll definitely want to make sure you're eligible for that.
A Conforto jersey.
Yeah. I wasn't going to tell them until we got to 100,000 for a script. Actually, maybe I should have, and that would have taken us there. We'll get there by tonight if I said it's Michael Conforto. We're also available on podcasts, Apple, Spotify. I don't know where, Google, Stitcher. I think I'm not 100% sure where else people get podcasts from these days. But again, that's Anthony. I'm Matthew, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.